Welcome back to another episode of Picton's Northern Star, the floating fiasco, or floating circus as I like to refer to it. Hey look, haven't had an episode for about 4 weeks, my apologies. There's been a bit going on, plus a little bit of drama, which I'll fill you in about as we head into the episode. So this episode, a couple of little bits and bobs just to fill in a bit of time. It was intended that it wasn't going to be too long, but accidentally it ended up with a major job being started and one that needs to be done. So I hope you hang around and watch till the end, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Mr. Seal over there and over there. Oh, look at that. There's been a seal on board the boat. A bit of seal shit. I would imagine that that is seal shit. So obviously managed to get aboard somehow. Fantastic. I'm going to scrape away there, dry that out while I'm here as well. In there as well, whereas water's been trapped behind that paint. In there. So I find the best way to do it is to scrape the paint off and let the wood dry out a bit. Down here, just open up and get a bit of air through the boat as well. Yuck. Wet, wet, wet. Same there too. See the heavy rain possibly coming in around the door, I would say. I would dare say probably blowing in around the door, and it's ending up coming in. Yep, opening the boat up and venting it. As I sort of said, I haven't been down for a week. I haven't put any episodes out, probably for about 3, possibly 4 now. Funny story, I mentioned the neighbours who are in the berth down there. They're out today. I was coming down the other day and they'd had the boat out on the hard. They were bringing it back in to put it back into her berth, and the dinghy that was in the berth area had been emptied out of water the night before, and his poor wife was trying to move it out of the berth so that they could get the boat back in, and of course it was pretty full. The two of us ended up struggling to do it and needing to tip it over to drain most of the water out. But as I did that, I bent over and I had put the GoPro in the top pocket, and it fell out of my top pocket into the water and of course disappeared into the marina there, which was pretty darn silly. And yeah, it was not the best. So anyway, I came up to the boat, thought it was probably a good opportunity to probably replace the thing and upgrade. And a short time later, my neighbour arrived down and offered to give me a GoPro 7 he had at home, which is really awesome. Thank you very much. And this is it here. I'm using this now to get a bit of footage. But anyhow, it wasn't the end of it. I came down, stepped onto the boat, slipped getting onto the boat down there, and ended up heard of an opera called the Nutcracker, or a ballet called the Nutcracker. Well, that was certainly the case there, and I must say it wasn't particularly a nice one to be a part of. So anyway, that being said, I was then around this side of the boat. I've been down to clear a bit of this paint off here to try and dry some of the wood out. And what happened was I ended up, as I bent over, my glasses fell out of my other top pocket and into the marina water as well. So that was it. That was the three things. So that was a rather annoying little episode. Lost GoPro, an active participant in a ballet or an opera called the Nutcracker, and losing the glasses over the side. So 1, 2, 3. So anyhow, so that delayed me doing any more work around filming stuff for the boat or for the next episode. Obviously I had a lot of footage on the GoPro as well, and that will never see the light of day, unfortunately, not unless it survives the 15 or 16 metres of water there without the outer case on, and maybe a diver finds it one day. Who knows? So if you are diving in the Waikawa Marina and you find a GoPro sitting on the bottom, you know where it belongs. Especially if it's still functional, because I wouldn't hesitate to keep using it. They've been pretty good little cameras. There's another over there. Neighbours going out. There's another seal coming along out the side there. Oh, there is. Has he been disturbed by the engine? An awkward looking way to move, isn't it, really, when you look at that? Obviously efficient though, otherwise they wouldn't have survived. What are you up to over there? Anyway, somebody said that oh, you wouldn't get the seals on your boat. Well, either that's a Sasquatch, which I don't think it is, or it's a very large bird, about the size of a human being or larger. I would dare say that that's probably a seal that's got him there and been on the boat and had a good crap. Just get rid of that, give it all a bit of a wash down, get rid of it. Oh, jeez, it stinks too. Crikey, I have to wash my bloody shoe now. That absolutely huckers. So I wonder where on earth he's got on. I wonder if he's been up here and he's jumped over the side here. Who knows? Well, mind you, they shoot out like a bloody cork. There's another fellow there. Lining up Northern Star's deck again. Right, go on, trail of bubbles heading under the pontoon there. Pretty cool, but by crikey, seal shit stinks. I can still smell it. One of the jobs I did do a week ago was I went down to Burnsco. I thought, well, I need to get the parts that I need for the installation of this Bilge water filter system that I've been talking about on previous episodes. Now, easier said than done. Some 45 or 46 millimeters, and I had to neck it down to 28, which is the hose from the 24 volt bilge pump that I have set up. So I thought, well, that's fine, I'll get a reducer and something to plug in like that. And that was easier said than done. several reasons. Apparently, even though they sell miles of the stuff here, it's not a standard size. It's 28mm. I'm not sure if it's internal or external. And the fittings, you have Hanson fittings and some other brand fittings, and the threads are slightly different. There was an outlet and an inlet, and I needed bits for both sides, pretty much so that they replicated each other, because I'm plugging into the inlet and outlet in the same diameter bilge pump hose. So I spent about an hour on my knees in Burnsco trying to find fittings that worked, the same thread and reducers to try and get it down to the 28mm of the bilge pump hose. What an absolute drama, and what a pain in the arse. You would think that things would be much easier than that. I probably could have gone into a pump shop in town, but I think I would have had the same issues all the same. Right, that's where it's going. I'm going to mount it on this side. Of course you can't see me on this side here. That's obviously the hose coming out from the bilge, so I'm going to mount it there and possibly up a bit higher, and that's the outlet over there. And as you can sort of see it, so it's basically putting the bracket, putting it in up there and running the inlet and outlet hose to and from and cutting it as required. As you can see, the weight of the water in the pipe there has pulled that down. I've obviously forgotten to tie it up when I installed it. So that's where we're at with that. And so we've got a lot of water coming in through up here, and it's coming in through along here and then behind the cupboards there and into the boat. Well, the last episode I was talking about having a bit of a problem with the two fuel tanks not equalising anymore, or in fact whether they ever did is the big question. The fuel was being taken from the starboard tank, the excess fuel not used in the engine, to the port tank via the only outlet. The only way the two tanks are connected now is by way of this T-line in here, and it would appear that it's not self-leveling, which is probably pretty evident why it's not. So I intend to utilise this here. There's one on every tank on both sides, and run a fuel line across, or a leveling, self-leveling line from this one to the other one. And I think that that would probably be a simple fix, if anything is simple in a boat. As we all know it's not, you can guarantee there'll be some drama. How that looks, whether it's a copper pipe fuel line or a proper rubber fuel line, I don't know. The engineer asked whether I would like them to do it, and to be quite frank, probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Get them to do it and do it properly with a line, and maybe it needs to be fixed to the bulkhead, and that should solve the self-leveling problem. The issue that I think I'd have is if I was to top up the starboard tank and use the boat and not shut off any of the valves, is that potentially the fuel will still get taken from the starboard tank and the excess from the motor pumped into the port tank, which is all well and good, but what happens when the port tank is full? Does that mean I'm going to end up with all sorts of problems and fuel coming out of the top of the filler? I don't know, so it's better off to recognise it's a problem now and sort it out, in my view, and that seems to be the easiest fix. The good news is the engineer has been down, had a look. Unfortunately they couldn't run the boat up to speed and adjust the gearbox. It was bogging down as they described it. From what I understand, it's quite likely due to two problems. Probably the oil, but more than likely I think due to the collapsed exhaust pipe and muffler and stuff in the dry stack. A few people I've spoken to say the old gardeners do not like to have the outlets restricted. They like to be able to breathe easily, and potentially if there's an obstruction in the exhaust, that's probably a reason why. and it wasn't like that beforehand until we got back here into the marina, and I noted that everything had collapsed inside it. So the oil is not, or the engine's not making oil. They've tested it. They detect a bit of silicon in it, obviously from the gasket stuff they've used, a bit of iron, which apparently is perfectly normal, and it's particularly in an old motor, and nothing of any concern or alarm to the engineer. So that's good news. So what that means is, there's no other way to put it, but the engine has been overfilled with oil. So whether or not that's because somebody thought the engine had to be running to check it, and they've kept adding oil to it to bring it up like they do the gearbox, or they've put in how many litres the book says. But I do know that there is a variation because of the sump design. It can alter the volume of oil that individual engines take. So, so that's still a work in progress. So next job's going to have to sort out that exhaust and hopefully get these guys back. We just had the guys down from the marina. They're just checking all the berths and the boats and everything, and they're down to do a little bit of seal chasing, scare them, well, not chasing, scare them off the boats and off the pontoons. Not allowed to touch them or hit them or anything like that. They're just simply, the seals disappear when they're approached, and occasionally one might sort of hold its ground if it's a bit stroppy in the male, I suppose. So they have the broom just in case. But there might be a long shortly, and we might be able to get a bit of seal action. Spot the seal. Run, Forrest, run. This is quite funny. These guys have had to undergo specialised training in how to scare marine mammals, courtesy of Doc. Not just anybody can scare a marine mammal off a pontoon, but love it. They do a good job, these guys.
We wanted to take some of this off. We might get the other end of the bolts. Right. It's welded there.
Well, off down to the boat again today with Malcolm, the engineer, just down the road from us, and we're heading down with his wee gas bottle, so that we can take the exhaust up and off above the deck level where it's attached. It's been a bit of a drama, as you'll see from the previous footage, that it's a bit rusty, the bolts are a bit rusty. They didn't use rescue steel nuts and bolts, welded the bolt heads on the underside, and unfortunately with grinding off the nut, we were unable to rotate the top half of it, or the top part of it, to get at the other one and to deal with that. So yeah, we're just on the way down now. We're going to gas off the last bolt and then try and get it off. We'll have to grind flat the existing bolts and drill them out and replace them, and this time we won't actually weld the bolts onto the underside of the plate, and we're going to use rescue steel so that anybody in the future that needs to get in there and do any work can do so, and hopefully not have the same level of dramas. So anyway, so we're down there, so you'll probably see a bit of footage. Some of it's a bit dodgy and a bit shaky, just getting used to the GoPro on a handle. I've decided I'm not actually a fan of the handle for it. Makes it a bit wobbly and a bit angled, and I'm just going to go and get on with holding these by hand, and also had to use a cell phone. So some of the footage isn't great, but at least I got some here to see the challenge that was involved in getting this sorted out and all the gear off the boat so we can replace the exhaust. Let's see if Sierras are down here. I wonder if they're actually working on the boat. that'll be interesting. There's two of them here, so yeah, we'll certainly see what's going on. You didn't see the grinding from the previous day. The three other bolts, we couldn't undo them. They were rusted solid, and it appeared that the backs of them had been welded underneath to the bottom of the stovepipe to hold them in location. So unfortunately we needed to bring the gas plant down. Malcolm brought that down to gas the last one off that's in behind. Unfortunately we wouldn't even be able to rotate it, so the idea is to try to get it off the base with that gone and then grind back the bolts. They haven't used rescue steel, which was a bit of a shame, and then drill them out, but they were apparently high tensile nuts and bolts, so likely to be problematic. Yeah, so you'll see us trying to set up to be as safe as possible, keeping sparks and everything within the area of the boat and minimise risk. That involved wet sacking over the top and around the gap down into the engine room, and me maintaining a fire watch. I just run another bucket of water in there and see the sparks coming through. I'm going to get another one now just in case. Hey, I bet you're wondering how I did that. I had the magic of editing. Trade secret. Right, well that's off. Going to go down and do fire watch. Don't know how much of that you saw. Sacks on fire around the steel. We wet that down, and there's another bucket of water inside. Right, back down to the fire. And what we thought were high tensile bolts welded to the gas pipe here, punched out. So that was really good. They were as hard as hell, otherwise we were going to have to drill them, so there's a win. So Malcolm's gone, very appreciative. He's going to reconstruct that for us. So now I'm going to have a bit of a vacuum up and a clean up and get everything nice, because I don't want the marina any bit upset with any mess that I've left. Potentially not the ideal thing to be doing in the marina. However, we were careful, good fire watch, covers with no sparks going anywhere outside of the boat, and frankly it needed to be done to try to get the old girl mobile again, so I didn't really have much of a choice. We have seals back out again. Right, good clean up done. Now the next job will be to, I'm going to cover that with some plastic, and as you can see here a little bit better. Yeah, really someone's used silicone in there to join the two pieces of timber, and hence why it's rotted at that joint and water has got under here as well. So I think the best option here will be to trim down there, solid out to there, trim up in there, and insert a new piece of plywood in there. And to be honest, I'm probably will soak it, absolutely soak it, drench it in resin. That'll stop the problem of the heat affecting it again in the near future, but there'll be quite a bit of water getting in every time it rains through there. Right, the other thing we're going to do is put a flapper on the top of the exhaust as well, so I can do away with that very expensive Ginola bottle. But yeah, and down here we've got a seal chasing baitfish. Baitfish flicking around on the water here. There. I'd say there's a seal in there somewhere. There's one's just gone by. Yeah, and I think the other job that'll need to be done when we haul out, other than anti-fouling, will be a bit of a repaint, of a sandback repaint. Because again, they've used two-pot paint over the top of the hull, and you can see it was fractured and cracked away, partly due to the collision it had with something, and I presume, and I believe, a wharf, and partly because it's too brittle to allow the hull to flex properly anyway, and it needs to be able to flex. So that'll probably be another job that'll need to be done. Right, let's get a cover over this. I can feel some rain coming. Boats coming in. No one fishing on there, which is unusual. A bit of a wash, as you can see, a wash coming in with the boats that come in. Comes in under the seawall. You'd think it'd be nice and sheltered in here, but yeah, we do get the wash from boats. All looking pretty good down here. Don't know what that is over there. Looks like it's through hole stuff. Never seen that before. You might. They're all nice and wet down here. And I have to come in here now and have a bit of a clean up, the bits of rust and everything that's fallen off the bottom side of the where the exhaust and dry stack went. Yeah. It might be about time to head away and go home. Everything's sweet down here. We have an old pirate ship. It gets along at quite a reasonable clip too, doesn't it? Thanks for watching another episode of Picton's Northern Star, the boat or floating circus. Hey look, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. We'll keep you updated from now on with how we get on with the replacement of that internals on the dry stack. And as always, I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, share, all that sort of drama. And remember, get out there and do it before it does it to you.